What's good, party people? This is According to Woods, and I have the honor and privilege of talking to my sister. She is one of the co-founders of the Mat Therapy podcast. She's a 10 planet brown belt under the great Eddie Bravo. She is the one and only Dawna Gonzales. Dawna, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
Good, good. It's been a long time coming. And I actually have to thank you because like you have been pretty instrumental in my career, not just through the Mat Therapy podcast, but anytime I posted an interview, like I'd either get you or Becky Dominguez kind of is shooting in the inbox and going like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so proud of you," and whatever. And it's just meant a lot because I found your guys' podcasts at a time that I found Joey Diaz's podcast and Rogan's podcast, and really not feeling great in my life, even though I was making the money and I had all the things, wasn't really feeling great, and had lost my dad like a couple years prior, and then months away from losing my mom, and I found the podcast and doing jujitsu, and then kind of learning through your guys' do's and don'ts, and it's been vital, and you guys have been vital to me. So thank you.
You're welcome. I'm so happy that you're doing this.
Yeah, and it's become it's kind of becoming my life's work. I'm still pretty early on, but this is like the way that I've been able to define myself more so than any other role that I've had before. So it's really cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. I like the idea of building your own brand and legacy just off of your own thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Now, obviously, a large part of your kind of genesis and broadcasting deal came by way of, doing jujitsu. So how did you first come into jujitsu?
Well, how I first came into jujitsu was I started taking kickboxing classes at Legends in Hollywood, way back in the day, like the first version of Legends. And I was taking kickboxing classes and making friends with everybody there. And one of the girls in the kickboxing class was like, "Hey, that guy that teaches after our class, he's like famous. Like people come in from all over the world to train with him." And I was like, "That guy with the long hair and the tattoos?" And they were like, "Yeah, he's totally famous." So I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." So I didn't think anything of it. And then one day after class, well, I noticed that that's where all the guys were. Like there was kickboxing and it was like a mixed group of people and whatever. But then afterwards you're like, wait, all the dudes are coming in, like right at the end of our class. So one of my girlfriends, who's a brown belt now under Cabrinha, we were standing outside of class one day and she was like, "Hey Eddie, can we get in your class?" And he was like, "Yeah, let's go." We had like tank tops and shorts on, and like nobody taught us how to shrimp, nobody taught us how anything, but they were like so cool to hang out with, and like we loved being there that we just started coming back every night.
Now, obviously, as you now know, kind of shorts and tank tops. Some people roll in that. But that wasn't necessarily the, I guess, apt wear for what you were going to experience. Right. So,
yeah.
How was that?
Up, right? And even in Nogi, you want to be covered up with your skin as much as possible. We were just taking kickboxing classes, so like we weren't, and we had to learn it. Einstein one day, Scott Einstein from 10th Planet West LA was like, "Hey dude, you can't wear that." And I was like, "I'm a grown woman, you can't tell me what to wear." And he was like, "Come here, stupid." And he was like, "This is why you have to cover up." And I'm all, "Oh, all right."
Yeah, well, all it takes is like one batch of like ringworm or whatever, and then you're like, maybe I should wear something longer.
I went 9 years without getting any ringworm or anything on my skin. Started teaching the kids classes, got ringworm.
Sometimes it be like that,
Yeah, sometimes kids do like that.
So, taking the kickboxing class, right? It was, obviously a standing discipline, but even that, like, it's still combat sports, right? So, what was that ideology that you're like, "Hey, I don't want to just lift weights or do yoga. Like, let me get something a little bit more intense.
So I've always been a boxing fan. I grew up my whole life, like I love boxing. When I was in my early 20s, so a long time ago now,
Two
I was
years.
out, yeah. So yeah, like 20 years ago, I was playing pool in Culver City with a friend, and we just, you make friends in a pool hall. Like we just like started chatting it up with some people. One of them turned out to be a heavyweight boxer, Layman Brewster. And I was a massage therapist at the time. And most people, when they meet massage therapist, like the first thing they're like, get, but athletes, when they say it, you're usually like, oh, I just got a client. So this guy's like, I'm a pro boxer. Can I have your phone number? I want a massage. My manager will want a massage. And I'm like, okay, cool. So turns out that manager, and he did want a massage, and his manager wanted one, and it was Sam Simon. One of the creators of The Simpsons was also he passed away not too long ago. He was a big boxing fan, so he used to box, and he was this guy's manager. So I became friends with them. I would go like give them massages, and they found out I was a boxing fan, and they took me to Wild Card. So I learned to box at Wild Card about 20 years ago. Yeah. So I was a massage therapist though. So it got my body couldn't really handle it. Like after about, I feel like maybe like 6-8 months, my wrists were like, you got to choose one or the other. And since massage is what paid my bills, I had to stop boxing. So, but I missed it and I loved it. And it was the best workout. And the people were so cool and it was awesome. And little did I know how crazy famous that place is, but that's where I learned to box. And so a couple years went by and I stopped being a massage therapist full time. And my brother happened to be in college at the time, and he was training in Arizona with Rick Rufus.
Oh, dang.
Yeah, Duke Rufus's brother. So he found out about Legends because he was getting into the whole UFC thing. And he called me and he was like, you got to go to this gym in Hollywood and check it out. I was like, Randy Couture's there and Basta Rutten and blah, blah, blah. So I went and I signed up. And so I started taking the kickboxing classes. Like I loved boxing and I missed it. But then I found out that you could kick things too. So then I went into kickboxing classes.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I mean, obviously, boxing to kickboxing, most people like that don't know. They think, oh, well, it's just boxing with kicks. But I mean, it's a completely different deal. The distances are different. The angles that you cut are different. It's just, it's a wild one.
And it was fun. Like I wasn't looking for anything specific. I didn't even know what jiu-jitsu was, but I wasn't looking to like become a fighter or get involved in the fight world or anything. It was just, that was a really fun way to work out. It turned out these people were all really cool to hang out with. So, it was just a cool thing to do at the time. I was young and single and didn't have anything to do. So going and spending 5 hours at the gym every night seemed like an awesome thing to do.
No, absolutely. And then, I mean, if that wasn't crazy enough, boxing to kickboxing, here you are in jiu-jitsu and like at 10 Planet Jiu-Jitsu, and it's crazy. You're like, that guy's kind of famous or whatever. But I mean, the Eddie Bravo that we're kind of referencing has become one of your numerous.
So he was just kind of famous back then, right? That was like circa right when his star started rising. So, yeah, like none of us that started back then knew what it was going to be now. How could we? It was, like I said, it was just a cool place to go hang out.
That's not bad, right? And it what's funny? Like I actually, I worked at that, what is it? The FedEx, right across the street from the ArcLight, which is right down the road, right? And I think I did one class, and then I ended up being transferred and whatever. But I was just like, I mean, just kind of hindsight 2020, like all of the things. This is probably about 2000, I want to say 2009, 2010. So like, if I had just stayed there, man, what could have been? But yeah, well,
yeah, that 2009, 2010. That was right when we moved away from that location.
Yeah, dude. And then it goes to the downtown location after, right?
No, there was another location in Hollywood in between the three-story location. Yeah,
Whoa, holy
yeah.
smokes.
So it was on Santa Monica and Western, and we had three stories. There was half the building that was the pole dancing studio. Um, there was a dorm, like a whole bunch of the guys moved in to like half of the warehouse upstairs, and they were like, "It's our dorm," and we were like, "Okay." Yeah, that was Legends on Santa Monica. That one was awesome.
Yeah, and that it's funny because like Kingdom has kind of it's the show Kingdom is on Netflix now, and it actually reminds me, like the front entrance of that incarnation of Legends.
Oh, really? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think I've seen stills of it. I'm aware of that TV show, but I've never seen it.
Oh, you get it's a fun little wormhole to kind of go through. And half
Yeah.
of the fun is like seeing your friends in the background. You see like Joe Daddy Stevenson or Ian
Nice.
Harris or Terry on Ware. That's part of the
Yeah,
fun
I
of like
remember when they were filming that.
yeah, I you know what, it's funny because like I'm trying to place the time period because I know like it went off the air I think maybe 2 or 3 years ago or
Yeah,
whatever.
all I know is they were filming it when we were at the first downtown location because they came in and like got a whole bunch of our guys for the background.
Wow, that's pretty fun. So I mean, I'm on season 2. So again,
Yeah.
I'm looking forward
You
to
might
seeing
see them.
more.
I'm not sure what episode it was or what, but I know that at one point they got a whole bunch of guys from Tap Out to go be in the background.
Oh man. Okay, see, this is part of the fun of watching Kingdom. So shout out to Kingdom. But
Yeah.
obviously, I mean, at what point did you kind of feel like, hey, this is not just a cool place to hang out, but like I'm actually starting to get something out of it. Like at what point did you have like an epiphany or watershed moment where like this is the thing to do?
I don't know how that transition happened. I think it was a very gradual, like, oh, I'm hanging out. I'm hanging out all the time. This is my community. This is my entire life. Like, I think it was just that kind of progression. So, I remember it being fun, and I remember. This is a good, I guess, marker when we moved away from Legends in the second location in Hollywood. That's kind of when like kickboxing and boxing and jiu-jitsu ended up in two different locations, and it was like, okay, I'm gonna go with the jiu-jitsu. Like I'm going with 10th Planet, and it was a very conscious like because I guess yeah, by that point I must have started spending like 90% of my time with jiu-jitsu crew. Yeah.
I think that's brilliant though, and you gotta paint the scene for us, right? So it's like you and your friend that ended up at tank tops and shorts, going into the first class. But like, were there many women doing jujitsu?
There was me and her, and then Kim Ferguson, who's the first 10th Planet female black belt. She would come over like once or twice a week, maybe. But that was it. And then, over the next, so in the beginning, it was just me and Charlene, and then Kim when she came. And then like girls would trickle in every once in a while, somebody would come visit. But no, there were no other women doing it. And then women would come in, then they would leave. Anytime a couple came in and they broke up, it was always the girl that left. And I was like, this sucks. But it took, I would say when our girls team started to grow the most was when we went to Tap Out downtown. That's when like most of the ladies started showing up. And ever since then, it's been pretty steady growing. Obviously, women are always, I think, going to be the minority in the sport. But yeah, Tap Out for us at least was around the time that the girls just really started joining 10th Planet.
Now, I mean, was there a conscious like? Was there a conscious like goal? Like, we're gonna have a women's team to compete at XYZ competition, or
No,
how
I
did that?
just refer to it as when the girls come. Like I just refer to it as the women's team. We still don't officially have a women's team, but I say we do. So
I mean, I think it works, and especially, I mean, we're talking about like we're on the back ends of like a all female EBI, submission
Yeah,
only and
this is on the
submission
shore.
only. Yeah,
Um, Danny Harris in Kentucky is doing Artemis, which is all women. There's been a couple shows that have been all women. It's awesome.
that's got to be a pretty cool deal for you to kind of see it all kind of manifest,
Yeah,
right?
it's definitely cool. There's also a part of me that's like, damn, she was like 15 years younger.
You're what, like 27 now, so don't even
Oh,
trip.
you. Flattery will get you everywhere. No, I'm an old lady, and I'm not an old lady in the world. I'm an old lady in the sport of jiu-jitsu. I'm 43, so yeah, I definitely feel old when people join the team and they're like, I gotta go ask my mom if I can stay for practice.
That's I mean, but again, it just kind of shows your growth in this whole kind of game, the jiu-jitsu game. And it's not just like 10th Planet, but like you have become a seminal part of kind of the proliferation of the 10th Planet system, like worldwide. That's it. I mean, did you envision that?
No, I was just there. That's you know what I mean? Like, since I was just always there and it was HQ, that's how everybody knows me, because people come and train with Eddie and I'm there, and I was a very steady part of HQ for 11 something years. Yeah.
That's amazing. I mean, that in itself is almost like a Hall of Fame career, especially in the sense that all the people that were coming in and out.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
I mean, were there any notables that you kind of like, oh wow, this is happening?
Everybody's trained with us. Everybody. Like, I feel like every big name in MMA has come in and trained with us. A lot of big names in jiu-jitsu, a lot of actors. I mean, we were right in the middle of Hollywood for a long time. So yeah.
I agree. And just if you filter through all the social media pages, and you're like, oh whoa, that's and start connecting dots and everything. It's pretty fun. And Jesse Velasquez, he's actually saying it's always the kids getting the ringworm. I
know.
Caught it from the wrestlers I coach, and it's gross. Yep.
Yeah. I'd never got 9 years. Nothing. As soon as I started teaching the kids, I got ringworm.
That's hilarious. And then Charlton Pardo, for whatever reason, everything is stuck on screen, but he's saying, you're not 43. There's no way. Absolutely not.
Okay, I'll tell you my secret. This is what I tell everybody. Jiu-jitsu keeps you young. And it's because I'm a jiu-jitsu witch. Every time I choke out a young dude, I steal a little bit of his soul.
There you go. I mean, I actually have borne witness and succumbed to it at the LA Jiu-Jitsu Club, you and John. So I got like a husband and wife just like mangling and strangling. So it's fun.
How did you get into jiu-jitsu?
How did I get into jiu-jitsu? Oh my goodness. So I knew of jiu-jitsu, and I actually thought it was a part of MMA, because I was like, hey, I kind of want to be a badass. So like it's going to be one component of this like MMA thing. So I'll do a little bit of the jiu-jitsu stuff, maybe do a little wrestling stuff, boxing and whatever. That's what I thought. And then got into Matt Baker's Brazilian jiu-jitsu up in Bakersfield, California. And like people were just like hyped on just doing jiu-jitsu. And like nobody struck. I mean, it wasn't until maybe like 3 to 6 months after I started training did they even have like a MMA class. Everything was just straight jiu-jitsu. And Matt is a John Jock black belt, and then his wife Jill, right before I left the school, she got promoted by John Jock as a black belt herself. So they're a husband and wife black belt under John Jock.
That's awesome. So they're family.
Yeah.
They're kind of like cousins.
Absolutely. And I mean, they're kid. They've got 3 kids. They all train. I think Kylie is a brown belt. Their daughter. I mean, they're just a phenomenal family. But I think it sounds so cliche, but like jiu-jitsu saved my life. I think Nuwaza had that rash guard, but it was that. I lost my mom and my dad, within a couple years of each other, and I had this this gig at corner office, all the bells and whistles, like corner office, corporate marketing, blah blah blah, making the most money that I had made at that point in my life. But I was fucking miserable.
Yeah.
It was a miserable existence. And then what ended up happening was one of my coworkers, he actually trained and was a blue belt under Matt and Jill. And he was like, well, you've been talking about it. You listen to all the podcasts. Why don't you do it? So we would go on lunch, 90-minute lunches to one of the locations. And that's how I started in jiu-jitsu. So fun
Nice.
time.
I like it. I like
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
So
And then,
how long have you been training now?
oh gosh, I mean, a year, because I did 6 months at Matt, but I was, so the friend that I was training with, he essentially was he lived in Palmdale, so he was traveling up to Bakersfield, right? So
Oh,
he
wow.
could only attend, the day classes. I attended night, so like a madman, I basically ended up doing, I think, 7 classes a week, 7 or 8 classes a week. Um, yeah, and then had to leave, got laid off, whatever, coming back to LA, and then coming into Fight Academy with Savant Young and all them,
Mhm.
and Heinrich and all those guys, and I did the exact same thing. But I was just like, oh, let me go ahead and do striking too. And the first day that I wanted to do striking, I get paired up with none other than James the Beast Wilson. Yes, never never sure. I mean, I grew up in England, but I
Yeah.
I would like dive and tackle guys or do something
Right.
I saw in WWF or whatever. So I'd never really technically strike. And here I am with a mountain with
Right.
the head essentially. It was a YouTube knockout reel, is about 6 minutes long, and I get paired up with him, and I start. I'm really awkward, right? And I'm just throwing shit, but I got my first combo, and he's like, "Oh, great! Hit me harder and walk." And as he's saying this, I'm like, no, no, because I know I'm going to get it back.
Yeah,
And
totally.
yeah, and so I did hit him like maybe 2.2% harder. I did do that, but
Right.
no, I wasn't. No, and I did get it back, but he went easy on me, thank God, because I don't know if I could be able to live to tell the tale.
Yeah, I don't know if a lot of people could. That's not a easy punch to take.
No, no, not at all. Yeah, so I mean, obviously, you've been with Eddie for, I mean, he's essentially been your only jujitsu,
Oh,
coach and teacher.
yeah.
What has it been like, training under Eddie Bravo?
People ask me that, and I don't have anything to compare it to. So I've only ever trained under Eddie or other 10th Planet black belts. So I'm very I like the style. I like our style. It seems great, but I really don't have anything to compare it to. I think I've only visited a non-10th Planet school a handful of times. I honestly don't even know what to compare it to.
No, I mean, have you gone to like other places in like open mat and whatever and see different styles and go like,
A little bit. Like I've been to open mat and I've visited one or two other schools, but I haven't really traveled outside of the 10th Planet bubble at all much. And somebody asked me and I was like, I'm not really a jujitsu fan. I'm a 10th Planet fan. Like, I don't know if it translates. Like, I don't know if if I left 10th Planet, if I'd like go put on a gi and like, maybe it's possible. I'm not saying I wouldn't, but since I don't, it's like saying if you've only ever lived in California and people are like, well, what's it like to live in Maine? And you're like, I don't, tacos.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And Charlton is actually saying about taking the souls of the youngins. I believe
Yeah.
it, and Jesse's is talking about that's a lot of dedication to stay in martial arts for long over a decade. But
Oh, thank you, Jesse.
most everyone, yeah, absolutely. He says most people quit at blue. I don't know
Yeah.
that feeling. I'm a forever white belt, so
You've
there's
been
that.
training for like a year. How's that a forever white belt?
I I don't know. I don't think the
Two and a half
consistency is
years.
there.
2.5
Yeah.
years. Yeah.
Well, you see, the funny thing about this whole kind of COVID situation is I had just saved enough to go to 10 Planet Pasadena with Campella and Lila, and then everything shut down literally the week after. And I was just like, oh, dang. And I'd even taken a picture with like George, and I know you coach there. And I was just
that
like,
was where I was teaching before I moved down to San Diego. I was teaching
yeah,
at HQ.
absolutely. So I was like, I even took a picture at Submission on the Shore the last time I saw you and Jonathan, and with the 10 Planet Pasadena crew, and I was like, this is the team. This is my new team. And then lo and behold, everything just goes weird.
10 Planet Pasadena forever. That was such an awesome crew. I miss those guys so much.
Yeah, they're great. Yeah, so I mean, that's one of the, I guess maybe the selfish. I mean, of course, good health, prosperity, all that jazz. Want everybody to be well, but selfishly, I want this thing to be over so I can start training again and whatever. Because I grew up a wrestling fan, a pro wrestling fan, and I was always a fan of the technical wrestlers, the Bret Harts, the Owen Harts of the world. And I mean, I never wanted to be an Olympian. I wanted to be a champion wrestler. And the only notable jiu-jitsu competition that gives out belts is Naga. So I want one of these.
Yeah. Oh, really? I beg to differ. Look at this.
What you got? Oh my God, that's beautiful. What is that?
It's from Submission Challenge.
What?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's exquisite. As you can probably tell, I'm kind of a belt mark. So, oh my gosh,
what are those belts behind you?
So I've got the National Wrestling Alliance. That's a replica belt. That's the old Harley Race, Ric Flair, 10 pounds of gold. But on the other side, I've got the first women's 135-pound camo title won by Brooke Mayo. Yes, I know you were there. Did you commentate it?
I think so. I think it is.
Yeah, so that's what that is. It's a part of your history. It's a part of mine.
Gave that to you?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so, and she inscribed like a cool little message, and hearts. Shout out to the bully Brooke Mayo. Yeah, so it's, but what, because I know with Naga, you have to be at least a purple belt. So what belt classification do you have to compete at that, to win that beautiful belt that you have?
I think anybody could compete at Submission Challenge. That was a brown belt match today.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm about to slide in those DMs because that belt looks amazing.
No, I don't know. I mean, obviously, with everything shut down, I don't know when they're coming back. But that competition was at the Anaheim Convention Center last year. Yeah.
Okay. Oh man. Okay, so now I've got a whole nother. Yes, Naga cool, but I'm also doing that one too.
I know, it's a cool belt. I was like, yes.
That's sick. That's sick. Now, obviously, your competition, acumen is pretty lofty, right? But you also share a bit of admin duties, with 10 Planet, and that's pretty cool too, right?
Yeah, I've never been a big competitor. I've done a couple tournaments. There's a lot of people that compete way more than I do. I don't know if admin is the word that I would use for. I'm like the event planner and the official team mom.
That's good. I was like, when people are like, "Oh, what's Dawna?" I'm like, "Oh, she's the chick that does the stuff."
She's the mom of 10th Planet. That I get introduced as the mom of 10th Planet. Eddie just introduced me as the mom of 10th Planet at an event. He was like, "Oh, it's Dawna. She's like 10th Planet's mom."
Kind of a far departure from the gal that was like, I don't know what this is, but the guys are doing it, so let me do it.
And I thought everybody did no gi. I didn't know about the gi. I told somebody I went to an event. I was like, "Oh, I do jiu-jitsu," and they were like, "That's not real jiu-jitsu." And I was like, "Why? I don't." They're like, "That's fake. You guys don't even wear a gi." And I was like, "I don't know what that is." And she was like, "You don't even do jiu-jitsu."
Yeah. Well, partly one of the crazy things when I was, going back to the office and what have you with my like soaking wet gi and airing it out, and they were like, "Oh, you do that Jiu Jitsu," and start
Right.
going throwing
Hi.
chops at me,
I know.
and I'm like, yeah. Yeah, and I still only own one gi. It's the gi that I started in because the first time that I ever tried jujitsu was they had just come out with the Elio 100, the commemoration of Elio Gracie's 100th year in
Okay.
jujitsu, right? So that is the only gi that I own, but I've got like I probably about a drawer full of rash guards. It's so
Oh
crazy.
yeah, I've got quite a collection of rash guards. I think I have close to 40 at this point.
That's pretty. I mean, for all the time that you've put in, 40 is a respectable number. I've got probably half that, and again, half the talent. So there's that.
Rash guards are very addicting.
It's like the Pringles, right? And I'm sure you know what. Probably Dan Hubler's up in Palmdale is probably doing
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. He's probably doing like a Pringles. Once you pop, you just can't stop. Rash guard.
I got an idea.
Yeah, I'm just saying, but yeah, it's fun. Now, I mean, obviously, we kind of mentioned math therapy. I that is a podcast that I absolutely loved. So how did that start?
Mm-hmm. I've been talking about doing a podcast. Somebody had said a couple things, like it was just around the time that, I do voiceover. So I'm like, I'm going to do a podcast. And then, gosh, I don't remember. I think I called Becky. I was like, let's do a podcast. And she was like, oh, okay. Like there was no plan. Like there was, you know what I mean? It just kind of like, we were like, yeah, let's do it. And then she happens to be really good friends with Joey Diaz. And so she was like, Joey said that we could record in his studio. And I'm like, what? So that's kind of how everything fell apart. It was a very kind of almost innocent, like, man, you guys should do a podcast because I think it was either Cora or Grace just had a match at EBI and just like tore it up. And like people were going crazy over women's jiu-jitsu. And it seemed like perfect timing to do it. Or maybe actually, I think that match was after we already had a couple episodes out.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it was like a very organic, like, oh, we should do a podcast. Yeah, let's do a podcast. Well, I happen to be friends with Joey Diaz, like, like that type of thing.
That was fun, and it's kind of apropos that we're talking about it because Joey and Lisa Ayat, they posted the last California episode of the church. Yeah, I cried. I was just like, because that podcast, your guys' podcast, and Rogan, and I think like one wrestling podcast, like literally left me. Lifted me up from like a pretty dumpy kind of life condition and what have you. And I was just like, when I was in Bakersfield, I was like, if I get back to LA, I'm gonna be in that scene. So it's like it was pretty somber. Pretty somber. I know they're going to be doing stuff otherwise from wherever they go. I think Joey's going to Jersey. Yeah, I know Joey's going to Jersey. Okay. Lee's going back home with mom, and they're going to do like a Zoom once a month. But even still, like that podcast for that time, it's just like.
Is the church done?
Pardon?
Is the church done?
No, it's not done. It's just this incarnation, at least the Cali, incarnation of it is done, and I actually posted the picture. It's like me, you, Becky, Lee, and Daniel Rodriguez, and I was just like, I tried not to geek out because I was just like, holy hell. I listened to this podcast, both podcasts in Bakersfield, and here I am at the studio watching a live episode of this while my friend who's fighting for Bellator at the time, right, at the Forum, a place that I graduated. I mean, I had my high school convention ceremony for Inglewood High. I was just like, oh my gosh, so I tried not to be a dweeb. Yeah, but I mean, that was some good times, and again, much love to Lee, Joey, and because they've done so much.
Yeah, they're the best.
Absolutely. So another aspect of your what is you is this the Phoenix Method, and I know Charlton. He said he just started following you on IG, empowering. Gonna have to take the girls to meet her someday. So
Yes.
shout out to Charlton. But I mean, what is the Phoenix Method?
So, well, you know what a phoenix is, right? A phoenix
Out of
is
the
a
ashes.
bird that like literally burns to ashes and then like is reborn a new and improved version of themselves. So that's what my idea is. I've always been like big into reinvention. Like I've had very various versions of myself, and it's always, I think everybody goes through processes of reinvention. So how this specifically came apart was at the beginning of the year, I moved down to San Diego for a job. Between the combination of learning that the job wasn't like a really great fit for me, COVID, the pandemic, like all of it kind of fed on top of each other. And then the job just didn't like, it didn't work out. Like I said, there were a whole bunch of factors, and so now I'm like, oh, I'm in San Diego. Like I just moved down here for all of this. Like, what do we do? So I found myself in a really bad place and like trying to figure out, like everybody was having that anxiety. This was, like dead in the middle of the lockdown. And so over the years, I've taken tons of coaching courses and studied with different coaches. And then I got my life coaching certification. So that's what I did. Like, I was like, okay, I have all these tools to help myself get out of this way that I'm feeling that, there were several things that in my past that everybody has, like all my baggage, everything, and then just finding myself in this situation where it's like, what do I do? So I went and I got online and I signed up for an online course, which I was kind of skeptical about because I'd never done a certification course or anything. Like I know, and when you go in person to like self-help seminars and stuff like that, you like break off into groups and you do these exercises and you talk. And so I didn't know what to expect, but I was very pleasantly surprised. I loved my course. The group of people that I with were amazing. And I came out of it with my life coaching certification. And I was like, how do I help other people get to the place where I am now after like working through everything that I was feeling? And I decided to put together a course, like a 5-week course to help women specifically, because I was also trying to figure out like, how do I, what's the best way to, what's the best version of myself to give the world? And I love the part of doing women's self-defense where I'm like, I see the light go on in women's eyes. It's just as rewarding in Jiu Jitsu. I'm not saying that I don't love watching men get it too, but like watching women, especially through the lens of the sport of Jiu Jitsu, like getting that physical empowerment and like really feeling like that's where I can do the most good for other women and like helping them really find that badass. That's what I hear from all of my friends who don't do Jiu-Jitsu. Like they're like, oh, Dawna's such a badass. And I don't necessarily feel like that, but I mean, sometimes I feel like a badass, but more than that, I want other people to feel what I'm feeling. And so I want other women, because I'm also of the belief that when women are holding a certain energy in the world, like it lifts everybody up. You lift your partners up, you lift your community up, you lift your children up. So like that's where I wanted to contribute my energy. So I created the Phoenix Method, and like I said, it's a 5-week course. I'm starting it in October, and it's all about taking women through their physical and mental and spiritual health and how all of that can help us let go of our past to recreate the best Phoenix version of ourselves possible.
I think that's awesome. I think it's like absolutely sick, because that's the thing. That's the one thing that you have always been able to do, is empower women. I mean, you and Lila had the 10 Planets Women's Self-Defense program. The mat therapy was, again, I never heard not only like a fun jujitsu podcast, but done by two females. That was so. I mean, it was trend setting. So I think you're uniquely qualified to be able just to empower.
Thank you. I hope
women.
so.
Yeah, I think so. I know so. Dang it. And I'm not a woman, but you definitely empowered me. So there we go.
Good, I'll take it. I'm also doing, just for fun, a vision board party. I think on September 13th. I should have decided on the exact date before I came on the podcast, but on September, I think maybe September 13th, I'm going to do a vision board party on Zoom for as many people that want to come. And that's free. And it's just, honestly, it's just to help people get excited about next year, because 2020 has been such a...
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, the next person who goes like, "Oh, 2021 is going to be my year," or anything to that effect, I'm just gonna punch him in the face. And I'm a pacifist, but I mean, I might pass my fist right through him. I'm just saying, just kind of ward off the bad energy. Um, but anyway, obviously, in your journey, you've touched so many people, but it's been reciprocal, right? Because there are so many people that have been instrumental in your journey, not just as a, 10 Planet Jiu Jitsu practitioner, but as a person. So let's get some shout outs out of the way.
Yeah. Obviously everybody in 10th Planet, and everybody at 10th Planet Pasadena and HQ. I miss you guys. I love you guys. Down here with the freaks, they're awesome. With PJ Barch at 10th Planet Spring Valley, who's an amazing coach. I'm super happy to be part of this team right now. And the rest of the freaks down here are just awesome. And oh gosh, everybody, like the U of MMA guys, Jay Tan and Turi Altavia and Rich Slayton and our whole crew. We had so much fun doing that show. Oh gosh, all the guys at Legends, all the UFC fighters that supported us at Mat Therapy. That was always awesome to be like, oh, just having Liz Carmouche.
I think that's a pretty damn good list, yeah?
Yeah.
And for last but very not least, where can people find you on social media, just like Charlton did?
Yep. Everything is at Dawna Gonzales 10P. So Dawna with the W. DAWNAGONZALES 10P.
Dang right. I follow her. You guys should too. But my goodness, I just sending hugs. We just thank you because what you've meant for me, it has been, I mean, phenomenal. So you're just amazing. But for Court to Woods, this is Dawna Gonzales, and we are out. Bye, people. Bye.